Hello everyone, welcome to the video. John Bodine here with Redemptive Psych. And in this video, we're continuing our 16 type series, going over each of the profiles in some detail to give you a feel of the ins and outs of how the different types work. Today we're talking about the ESTP. ESTPs are types that I have grown to love over the years. It has been an interesting journey because some of them, sometimes they're in my energy combat, and other times it's like a phenomenal mutual growth thing where for INFJs or for INJs, they can see like an ESTP or an ESFP as someone that they can become more like, and vice versa, the ESTP can grow to become a little more reflective and intentional. Now, for the ESTP, they are complex for a couple of reasons. One is that because of their hyper awareness of the people around them, they are super aware not only of their environment, that's SE Hero, but they just have a sense of people. They are very sensitive and aware of what someone is like, kind of the ins and outs of their energy. And this is one of the reasons that ESTPs can test or feel like introverts. Because of that constant awareness of people, it can actually be draining in the end. But they are extroverts, and they like we'll talk about in a moment, they like to connect with people, and that's partially because of their awareness. Now, ESTPs are one of the 4 artisan types. That's the SP temperament, meaning that they are devoted to the development of their craft, and they desire the freedom to express themselves through their craft. Now, they are very creative with the environment. I was having this conversation yesterday with a likely ISFP, and we were talking about the difference between being creative and original. Now, when I use the word creative, most of us think about original, like making something that wasn't there before. Creative in its essence is more about the resourcefulness and the use of what's already there. ESTPs are phenomenal at taking something and repurposing it and combining things in ways that are not necessarily easy to see. So the artisans in general, the SPs, they're not super original necessarily of making things that have never been done before, but more being creative and using things in new and interesting ways. The 3 words I've picked for the ESTP in terms of expressing how I see them are resourceful, competent, and connection. We're talking a bit about the resourcefulness here. This is part of their creativity. They can repurpose things like no one else. They are very aware of what's available to them, the resources in the environment, and they can see interesting connections in terms of combining things or repurposing things that, again, are not intuitive to most people. Next, competent. They really, really care about competency. They hold themselves to a very high standard of being skilled and capable within their craft, within multiple crafts, and that's one of the ways they determine if they want to be around someone else, is if they can hold their own, if they can deal with life and with its complexity, and also with the workspace and do well with that. So they can be kind of harsh on people who are not competent or who they feel they can't rely on, because that means the ESTP has to take on more of a burden than they want to. And the one thing they do not want is to be burdened down by more than they already have. And third is connection. Of all the SPs, the ESTPs are the most in need of connection with other people. That is partially because of their awareness of other people, but they really thrive on connection. And this is one of the characteristics that can make them pretty socially skilled. And that, again, is part of the reason why they may think they're introverts, is because of that sensitivity to other people. Going through the functions now, we have our hero function. This is our top tool, our strongest tool for the ESTP. That is extroverted sensing hero. That is their awareness of the environment, their awareness of other people. The movements and the motions and the opportunities in their environment, they're very aware of. Extroverted sensing is also about manipulating the environment. ESTPs are usually really good at being a mechanic or fixing stuff or making stuff. Anything that's sort of hands-on, they do really well with. One of their obstacles in life is having to go through school, for example, and a lot of ESTPs don't feel like they're very good at school because school is not geared towards the ESTP's natural skills. So they can grow up thinking that they're dumb because their grades might be bad, or because sitting down and sitting still for many hours is really not good for the ESTP. As they get older though and have more opportunities, often they find this in athletics or physical things or making stuff, they start to realize that they're actually pretty capable and competent, and that the school system, for example, was not an appropriate judge of their intelligence. With SE Hero 2, the thing they need most from other people is that reliability. That's somewhat related to their competence, but they really just need people to be consistent for them, because they don't want to have to be more consistent than they have to, because that takes energy. As they get older and as they mature and as they grow, they can actually become quite consistent, but it's usually through the development of having people around them who are reliable for them. Next is their parent. The parent is the source of our responsibility, our caution, and how we build up and challenge other people to grow. For the ESTP, their parent is introverted thinking, logic, problem solving, the way things are, the way things aren't. They can be phenomenal problem solvers. They're not as constant problem solvers as like the ISTP, who's just thinking constantly. To think through problems and solve them, that's work for the ESTP, but they are pretty good at it. And they can become extremely precise at solving problems and fixing things. Now, this is also one of the ways that they kind of test other people. Can you handle the truth? Can you handle the way things need to be done? Can you handle solving problems? Can you listen to me telling you how to solve this problem and apply it appropriately? That is a way, these two functions combined are the main way that they test other people, but also develop and build up character and reliability in other people, is by shaping them with the truth. Next is their child. The child function is the source of our innocence, our renewing energy. Using the child is very energy giving. For the ESTP, they're extroverted feeling child. They love to help other people. They love to give to other people. You may not know that about them, because ESTPs can come across pretty distant and all focused on the problem and fixing stuff, but they actually have a natural desire to help and give to other people. They are actually pretty selfless people, and you have to keep an eye out for all the little ways throughout the day that they are giving and helping other people. When someone needs help, it's pretty hard for them to say no to that, because they have this pull to help, and they can see the ways that they can help with their ability and their problem-solving capability, that it's hard for them not to help. With the FE child, though, they also have a need for appreciation and acknowledgement for at least some of the things that they do, and they can become a little bit upset and angry when they do all these things for other people and it never comes back to them. Because they are aware of basically who gets what out of the situations, if they feel that they're being taken advantage of, that can really piss them off. So if you're going to take advantage of an ESTP, for example, do so at your own risk. Next is the inferior. The inferior is the source of our insecurity, our vulnerability, and our anxiety. For the ESTP, this is introverted intuition inferior. They have a really hard time making choices, picking between things. If you play a card game with them, for example, that requires you to pick something, I've seen them have a really hard time dealing with that. That can be a very stress-inducing thing for them. Anything that involves making a choice between things where you can't have both and you have to say no to one, that creates a natural discomfort for them. However, once they develop a consistent source of problem solving and thinking, their logic can really help them make decisions, because what it does is it takes away several choices when they realize that those choices are not good, that they don't work, they're not logically sound. So the more they develop their capacity for thinking and thinking through things, the less anxiety their inferior is naturally going to have. But they still have that uncertainty about making a choice, because when they make a choice, they feel like they're saying no to 1,000 other choices, and they have a hard time seeing why that choice is actually better than those 1,000 other choices and how it actually gives them a better future. So they struggle with their future and making a choice towards their future. Next is their Nemesis function. The Nemesis function exists to pull and challenge our hero. It exists to challenge our top tool. For the ESTP, the Nemesis is introverted sensing. They have a kind of criticism, a fight, an internal battle with their own work ethic, with their own routines and habits and disciplines. Early on in life, especially, they can be very inconsistent people where they just chase the energy, where they chase the excitement. They live for the party, they live for the excitement, while neglecting some of their own health, basically, their routines, their discipline. When they're immature, it's all about chasing excitement. When they're mature, it's about developing the routines and the habits and the work ethic that will allow you to perform consistently. They can rely too much on their natural ability to fix things or sense the environment. Perhaps they're an athlete and they're good at what they do, but they may not go to that next level until they develop a work ethic. They will not go to that next level until they develop that work ethic. So the Nemesis is pulling on the hero to say, don't just pay attention to where the excitement is, pay some attention to yourself and recognize that as you put effort into being healthy and having good work ethic, you will be able to perform so much better and so much more consistently, because that's the standard they hold other people to. Can you do it consistently? And the Nemesis is asking the same question of the ESTP, can you perform consistently? Next is the Critic. The Critic is the source of our criticism. It's like an old person, an old man, an old woman, like a grandparent who life has sort of passed them by, kind of regretful, looking at the world as a bit bitter. That's how the Critic starts out, but it doesn't have to stay that way. The Critic for the ESTP is extroverted thinking critic. They are very critical of other people's thinking, of other people's capacity to think well. This is where they can be very dismissive and thinking other people are stupid or don't have what it takes to solve a problem. Sometimes that can be justified when they see a pattern or a habit of someone else consistently letting them down, or basically not being able to fix the problem or have what it takes. Extroverted thinking critic is very resistant to the thoughts of other people unless it passes the critic's standards for, okay, that person actually knows what they're talking about. But the critic also exists to sharpen their own thinking by not just staying within their own thoughts, but learning to consult other people's thoughts, other people's perspectives. Because what the ESTP starts to understand once their critic gets a little wiser is that it's not so much that people are stupid, it's more that they don't have the right information or the right context. Now, some people may not be capable, but many people, if you can take on more of the teaching role, instead of just judging them for being stupid, they actually will have what it takes once they have the right information. Next is the Trickster. This is the weak spot. This is the place where the ESTP feels like they kind of get it, but then they don't, and then it can cause havoc, unintended havoc as a result. The Trickster for the ESTP is introverted feeling trickster. They have a hard time valuing things. Outside of its utility or how effective it is, they have a hard time seeing the intrinsic value in things. This makes it hard for them to value themselves also. They are so committed to helping other people and giving to them, but they have a hard time giving to themselves and recognizing their own worth. Because to them, someone's worth is attached to their ability. My worth is attached to my ability and how many problems I can solve, not necessarily having an intrinsic value. So discerning what is actually valuable and not valuable is something they usually need help with. However, over the course of their life, they can develop some standards to determine the value of something and to be able to evaluate something beyond just the problems or the solutions that are apparent with it. And lastly, their demon. The demon is more of an aggressive obstacle. It is our least aware function. We push it down, but it creates havoc, particularly until we become more aware of it and learn how to use that. For the ESTP, their demon is extroverted intuition. This is basically the futures and the choices of other people. SE, extroverted sensing, as a function is kind of an obligation function. While ESTPs can be pretty relaxed and chill, they do expect people to do things the right way, and they can struggle to give people freedom and choice to do things. This is partly because of their criticism of their ability and their thinking, that it's hard for them to give freedom and give choices to others. But this can come out in darker ways, where when the ESTP feels like their future is being threatened or their choice is being infringed upon, because they're so sensitive to their choice being taken away, they can naturally suck the choices away from other people. They don't necessarily mean to do it, but when they become aware, they recognize that it's a natural defense mechanism where I don't have a future, I don't have a choice, what I want is being taken away, therefore I need to pull choices away from other people so that I can ensure I have a choice. And one of the other ways they can deal with this is by realizing there is more than one right way of doing things. There are different perspectives that can be valid, and through that they can start to relax a little bit and give people a little bit more freedom. ESTPs are naturally very good in the environment. They are extremely resourceful, and they care a lot about connection, even though you may not always know that. So that's the ESTP in short. Hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.